Angela's Rambling House. My name is Sheila and I am the volunteer for this evening. We have a fine lineup of musicians, singers, poets, storytellers, and we might have a little bit of dancing as well. So, I know I've said this before, but I can see a few new faces in the audience. You might be wondering what this is in this bottle. This is rain. Now, it's not any old rain. It's not Clear rain or Cork rain or Thurs or Tipperary or Donegal or Dublin. It's Frank McCourt's Limerick rain. And as we all know, Limerick women are renowned for their beauty worldwide. And why? Because of the rain. Now, Frank McCourt was very clever. He told everyone about the misery of his childhood in the rain. But if he told everyone that there was a vitamin, or a vitamin in this rain, vitamin L. And vitamin L is not for the skin or the hair or the bones. If you Google it, you'll see, and this is the truth, it's to lift your mood. L for lovely, L for Limerick. So anyway, I'll tell you a story about the time back in the 70s. It was 1978. And we were all out. I was 16, it was my first time having a drop of tawny wine. So I met Mary and Cora and Mick Lacey. They were all at the party and they were all drinking. But they were well able for the drink, they were lobbing it back. Gabriel Hannigan was there and all the rest of them. But I had only 2 little slips and it went to my head. But anyway, we went down to that road and we were brought back to this party and they were all up and dancing and singing, and I wasn't able for it at all. And I don't know what Cora and Mary was talking about. They were talking about this brew and mushrooms and I don't know what was going on. So we were singing anyway, and I had another little swig of the tawny wine, and I wanted to go home because I got nervous, I said, Jesus, I felt funny. So I went out for a bit of fresh air, and it wasn't until I went out the wind got me like that. And this fella came up the road, up the dock road on Honda 50. Funny, I won't say his name now, but he said, my name, I go by Bunny, that's my nickname, my father's name was Bunny. And he said, well, Bunny, come on, hop on. So whatever way I hopped on. But I was very shy and I didn't want to put my arms around his waist. So I was holding on to the carrier, and every turn he took, I was and I was flying it. Next minute anyway, the Honda 50 went into this thing, a horse and carriage, and off up into the air. I went down that way, he went down that way. Sonny ran for his life. It's the headless coach, it's the headless coach. Well, fuck you anyway, Sonny. I said I can't get off of the floor. That's when it happened. This beautiful, beautiful goddess came up from the sea, the river. She was floating above the mist. What was her name again, Cora?
Shona, is it the goddess
Shona,
of Shannon?
the goddess of the Shannon. And I was in awe. I was looking and I could see her hair moving and moving up along the dock road, down along O'Connell Street, up Willem Street and down by Gerald Griffin Street, down by the walls of Limerick. And I was following her a while. I was looking and looking. Next minute anyway, I got as far as Cross's Undertakers and had to stand in by the wall in case she wouldn't see me. And I was doing that. I had one ear winked and I was like that. And there she was. Do you know, like a dog, when a dog comes out of the water and they have to shake. Her hair, she was swinging and swinging. Oh, droplets was going all over the city. And you see, them droplets was like one big shot of Botox. I captured it that day. Anyway, I thought more about it, and who did I see coming out of Crosses? Undertakers, only Jacko the Lantern. He was only that size and he had a lantern, he was skipping and kicking his heels, and he was dancing. And I didn't care anymore at this stage, I wasn't afraid. And I said, well, Jacko, I said, would you ever tell me what this woman is saying? The goddess. That's a lovely tune, Mary, you never lost it. Anyway, Jacko was there and he said, she's talking in an ancient Gaelic. She was saying, like Mana Bashta Falter, all. But anyway, I said, what's that? What's she saying? And he said, she's saying, the women of Limerick and their beauty will stretch the planet. They'll go wide and far. And I was there and I was saying, oh my God, Jacko. So that was fine anyway. And I didn't know. I followed her back up along Derry Griffin Street and her hair was waving and waving. And I was following her away. I was hypnotised actually. I was falling into a trance. Next minute up down William Street, up O'Connell Street and back down the Dock Road. And her hair was as dry as a bone. Like that. Next minute I see her going into the River Shannon. And she put her hands up like that. And she turned her hair around into a pillow and covered the rest of it over her body like a duvet. And she was tucking it in. And I was looking at her. And I said, oh my God. But didn't I go back home and I never knew the guards were out looking for me all night. And all my pals, Mary and Cora, they were all in our house. And I said to my father, telling them all, my brothers and sisters, there was 10 of us, and they were all around the table, they were all listening. And I was telling them about Jack with the lantern and the whole lot. And my father stood back like that. Ha, he says, "Oi fuck, huh? Oi fuck," he said. "She'll tell a good one when she's 90. We have Mary Gorman there to tell you all about the Rambling House.
Well, I'm about to sing the Rambling House. It's a song that reminds me of my own father growing up. So, yeah, hope you like it.
Take it away.
Gable wall is all that's left now. The old thatched cottage has fallen down. I dry my eyes and I fondly remember days of long ago when I was young. In my father's house we were poor but rich in love. No TV, but good times there were plenty of. And my mama hummed all melodies, and we'd all sing along. In my father's house when I was young. Come the time when I am older, and my own children are reared and gone. I wonder then, will they fondly remember days of long ago when they were young? In my father's house a smile would greet you at the door, a friendly face weary travellers there was welcome for. And at night time neighbours rambled in, might stay till 12 or 1. In my father's house when I was young. Years have passed and I am older. The old rambling house is almost gone, but still I hear the laughter of children, just like long ago when I was young. In my father's house we were poor but rich in love. No TV, but good times there were plenty of. And we made the best of what we had and sang a merry song. In my father's house when I was young. In my father's house when I was young. Woo!
Brilliant, Mary, no doubt about it. So we have Polly now, and that will be followed by Phila.
Do you know who I am dressed up as?
No.
Okay.
I'm the Green Lady. Do you know who the Green Lady is? The Green Lady is based on old Limerick mythology. She's the siren of the Shannon. And if you come close to the River Shannon, we'd be told as kids that she'd lure you into a spell. She'd cast you into like a dreamlike state and lure you into the Shannon, and then you'd be dead. And that was our warning to keep us away from the river when we were small. So as an adult, I decided to reimagine who the Green Lady would be and what she might say, and this is what I've come up with. Oh. Sheets of green silk rests on liquid silver. Golden sunlight cuts through my molten metal cover. An endless dyad of projecting and reflecting. A platinum mirror protecting the inner, keeping it hidden under the deep. Physical representation of ego that won't show, so it grows. I see them clearly conducting fantasies of their own creation, taking what isn't theirs and holding it like prayers of hungry peasants, avoiding the poison inside them. That's why I cry for them. I long to see them fly, but lies have weight, and while ego is great, they stay stuck in the rut of this flightless flighting. Past my palace off Shannon shore. Listen close, I will implore. What kills you will cure you. Come, take a sip. Dip your toe. I'll take you to a place that will shake you to the core. You have been there before. You are pretending to be who you are now. Don't live like this forever. There is better. How long can you ignore yourself? Forever? Come with me. We're woulda-bees, shoulda-bees, wanna-bees, gotta-bees, look at me's, face freeze. Act with grace, please, as he takes his and leaves you with nothing, goes to die. Enter me into the deep where falsities come to sleep. You will return reborn, it's true, I'll take you, only if you want to. Come, bathe in my liquid truth. Step away from group and think for yourself.
Ones she had lost and the ones she had loved, and the ones that loved her the most. The ones she had lost for so very long, Jenny couldn't remember their names. They were gone for her for so very long, Jenny couldn't remember their names. She never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave. They danced through the day and into the night, the snow that covered the ground. From winter and summer and winter again, the walls come tumbling down. She never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave. Jenny never wanted to leave.
Blessed Samhain, everybody, and I'll give a brief introduction to the story I'm going to tell tonight, just for context. And it was inspired by that brutal rule of the church that prohibited the burial of unbaptised babies in consecrated ground, and consequently thousands of little babies in parishes all over Ireland were buried in the hedgerows and the ditches. so they could have them near consecrated ground. And in Limerick, there was an old disused graveyard called St. Dominic's. It's out there by the Rossbryan area, do you know it? Yeah. And this is where people, it stopped. It was closed for burials anyway from since the beginning of the second part of the 19th century. And this is where people would have to sneak into in the dead of night so they could lay their little infants to rest in consecrated ground. So my story tonight anyway, I've called it Ghost Babies. And so it begins in a cottage in rural Ireland on Iahauna. A little baby boy came into the world, and sadly the little baby never took a breath. And his father got him and put him into an orange crate and carried him along the railway tracks, accompanied by his son carrying a shovel. And they made that heartbreaking pilgrimage to St. Dominic's graveyard. And as the father had an injury and walked with the aid of a stick, the task of burying the baby fell on the little boy, the 12-year-old boy. So he had to claw his way through tangles of briars and branches and the overgrowth until he came to a clearing, and then he dug the grave. And he picked up the little baby, and he was still warm, and he just couldn't bear to put this perfect little incarnation into the ground. So he took off the blue jumper that he was wearing, wrapped it tightly around the little baby, and put him back in the orange crate and just hid him under a bush and just ran as fast as he could out of there. And on the way in then, there was a man carrying that all too familiar bundle, little newborn infant in his arms. And this man and his wife have been married for 20 years now, and they prayed all this time for a baby. And when they thought they were finally blessed, the father hand-carved a lovely wooden cradle for him with rockers on it, and the mother spent every evening knitting little baby clothes. And when their baby was born on that same star-crossed Iahauna, she dressed him in a little red woolen suit that she knitted in a brioche stitch for extra warmth. And tragically, this baby only cried once. And when the woman when he had to pry the baby out of her arms, she gave out this deep, doleful keen, like the mourning howl of the she-wolf. So the father had to take the baby, and he stood amongst all the ancient tombstones that surrounded the ruins of the old church. And in the blush of the hunter's moon, he lifted the baby up and lifted him up to the gods and begged them, please, don't treat him any differently. And just then he heard a cry, and he thought, because it was the eve of All Hallows, that, you know, when the portal between the living and the dead and the veil is at its thinnest, that he thought it might be spirits coming back to visit. Excuse me. And or maybe an animal in pain. And he heard the crying again, and it was coming from under the bush. So he went in, and there, wrapped in a blue jumper in a little orange crate, was this perfect baby boy, bawling his lungs out. So he picked up the baby, and without hesitation, he stripped the suit off his own child, the lovely warm woolen suit, and put it on the little foundling baby. Then put the little baby, he wrapped him in the blue jumper and put him in the orange crate into the fresh grave that the little boy had dug, covered him with earth, and put the foundling baby under his coat and ran all the way home. Look, he cried to his wife, it's our boy, it's a miracle, our boy is alive. And the wife was ecstatic, so she heated milk on the range and swaddled him up then in lovely warm woolen blankets and laid him in the cradle. And he was a beautiful boy, he was beautiful, and they called him Fionn because of his soft golden curls, and they loved him dearly, but the mother was kind of uneasy. She felt there was something different about her baby. And then she wondered, would he be a changeling? Do you know, in folklore there was a thing that if a baby, was a belief and a genuine fear as well, that if a baby was too beautiful, that the fairies would come and steal the human child away and replace it with a changeling. So, but then, because she'd longed for over 20 years to feel the heft of a baby in her arms, she just said nothing, she just didn't question it any further. And meanwhile, the husband suffered horrendous nightmares, torturous nightmares, where he was visited by maleficent forces and vengeful spirits looking for retribution. So, and he suffered a series of maladies and misfortune. So Iahauna came round again, the birthday of both of the babies. So the little foundling baby Fionn had thrived. He was now in a big boy's cot, and the little wooden cradle was stored away in the attic, and there was great excitement. The mother baked the barmbrack and father carved a wooden horse for him, and with all the excitement anyway and the heat from the fire, he fell asleep early and he was tucked up in his cot. And meanwhile, on this dark night of the soul, it rained hard on the other baby's grave, and he just cried out for his mother's love and his mother's grief. But she didn't know he was dead. So without her grief, his spirit was troubled and couldn't settle and couldn't cross over to the spirit world. And so, I forget what I was going to say now. He couldn't cross over to the spirit world, and I'm forgetting, sorry. Somewhere in the middle of the night, she heard a baby crying, and she thought she knew that cry, she'd heard it once before. So she followed the sound all the way up to the attic, and they say that the clothes who die will be a ghost clothes forever. So I'm not sure. But inside in the cradle, she followed the sound, she went in, and inside in the cradle was her beloved baby boy, dressed in the red suit that she dressed him in a year beforehand. Now, she knew he was only in ghost form, but she was grateful that finally, all her misgivings they'd kind of allayed all her misgivings, and that she could finally grieve for her baby. So she sat down beside the cradle and she sang, and she just sang to him and rocked the cradle, and then her tears of grief splashed down on his little face, and your iridescent white mist just rose up from his little form into the air. And her husband heard her singing, and he kind of ascended the stairs very slowly, and he looked up and he knew that something awful awaited him. But her singing was so sweet, and it was kind of like a siren song that kind of entranced him. So he stepped into the attic, and whatever evil he was met by, we will never know. But he just let out a blood-curdling scream, ran from the house, ran back along the railway tracks, and hurtling towards him then was a large steam train, and all this cloud-like mass of black steam hissing from the engine and blurred the whole landscape. And then we just heard the lonesome wail of the whistle and the clatter of the train, and his mangled body was left lying on the railway tracks in the shadow of St. Dominic's graveyard. And the most eerie thing of all then was that no train had left the station that night, and no train had reached the final destination. So, Sinead now. Thank you very much. Lively after that, oh my God.
I'm going to borrow some words from a great balladeer in Limerick. I got these words from Larry Leclerc many years ago, back in 1999. And he wrote a beautiful song, and it goes, some of the words go out a bit like this. There's a town at the bend in the Shannon that the salty tide rises to greet. You'll get packet and tripe and cold cannon, boiled eye bones and crew beans to eat for a treat. But the natives, polite and discerning, have an easy to get along style. If you come here, you'll feel like returning, no matter how distant the mile. But when the sun sinks in the evening and the shadows fall on narrow streets, the poets and minstrels are dreaming to the sounds of our city so sweet. In this place that I call home, where stands the treaty stone, white waters roaring, the gulls they are roaring, or the rocks of the old Corrigower. And the legend says that when the Vikings came to Limerick, they couldn't get their longboats to cross over the Corrigower Falls. So we ended up with the Abbey River, and we have that great ancient tradition of the Abbey fishermen, of course, of the Abbey River that leaves the Shannon in the shape for you and joins it on the other side. So I wanted to start tonight on that particular note, and on this New Year's Eve night in the old Celtic calendar of Samhain, I'd like to remember some of the great Limerick people of the past. And we'll dedicate a little song to those in a moment. Before I do, I heard a wonderful reference to Jack O' the Lantern a little earlier on. I'd like to tell a little story about how the Jack the Lantern came to be. Jack the Lantern was named after a man called Stingy Jack. And everybody knows somebody who still has their communion money. There may even be somebody here. Now, as everybody knows, here in Ireland we call whiskey Ishkabaha, the water of life. Whiskey is a magical drink. It's part of the Irish love triangle, man, woman and drink. But whiskey is very special because whiskey makes you well when you're sick and sick when you're well. When we were babies, they gave us whiskey for the colic. When we were adults, they gave us whiskey to make us have fun. And we were sick from whiskey. We were told it'll be okay. What do? We drank more whiskey. So this particular story speaks about Jack the Lantern. And this man called Stingy Jack wanted to drink whiskey. And he invited the devil in hell along with him on this particular night. And he said, "Devil, I'd like to go for a drink. Let's go." So they go to the bar, and Stingy Jack, being Stingy Jack, decided he wasn't going to pay for the drink. So he asked the devil to shift his shape as he could do, in keeping with the traditions the two had done. So he shifted his shape into a gold coin. And Stingy Jack used the money to pay for the drink. The devil turned into a coin, he used the coin to pay for the drink. Stingy Jack put the coin in his pocket, he drank the drink, and the devil said, "Change me back." He said, "No. I'll only change you back. If you promise to leave me alone for 10 years. No problem, he left him alone for 10 years. 10 years came and went, and Stingy Jack continued on his stingy ways. He met the devil one more time, and he sent the devil up a tree. The devil went up the tree, and Jack made the sign of the cross on the base of the tree. "Turn me back," said the devil. "No," said the devil, "I won't turn you back." He said, "I'm not turning you back unless you promise to leave me alone forevermore." "Done," said the devil. So he left him alone forevermore. Stingy Jack died when his time came, and he went to meet his maker. He couldn't go to heaven because St. Peter wouldn't let him in, and he couldn't go to hell because he'd made a deal with the devil to leave him alone. So how we wound up with the turnip that we had here for Halloween, never before there was pumpkins, is the devil gave to this man called Stingy Jack the turnip. And he put a lighted coal into the turnip, and he asked Jack to use this lighted coal within the turnip to roam between the two worlds forevermore. So that's how we got the name Stingy Jack. Of course, many of our people went to America in all corners of the earth during the Great Hunger in the 1840s and the 1850s. And they brought these turnips with them. This tradition met the American harvest tradition, and the turnip, the Samhain that we know, became the Halloween that we see on television every night. But we all know that Samhain and the story of Jack the Lantern, Halloween, started right here in this very country that we call home. So that's the story of Stingy Jack. I'd like to go now, and I'd like to move, and I'd like to tell you a story written by a great Limerick man who you'll all know very well. He's the Bard of Thomond, Mr. Michael Hogan. Born in the 1820s, and he died on the eve of the 20th century in 1899. He, along with his wife Anne, are buried in Mount St. Lawrence Cemetery here in this great city. And there's a statue in his memory that stands very near the place that I call home, beneath the shadow of the castle here in Limerick town. Michael Hogan was a genius. Michael Hogan was a poetic genius who didn't get the credit he deserved, like many poetic geniuses in his own time. But this particular story that he wrote is a wonderful one, and it's called The Story of Sean Scoob, or the Clare Mayor. Yes, it's true. Limerick had a mayor, a first citizen. We all know Mayor Moore has taken the reins now, and we wish him well. But one of the first mayors of our city was a Clare man, and this, of course, was a man called Sean Scoob. Agus bas chunti an Clár, an farso. Agus madden a wan, yul she shias, o chunti an Clár. Agus de vi she takte shak o liminach. Agus ag shul hart drihid to a moon, walking over Thomond Bridge. And the city fathers had gathered on the bridge, and they decided that the next man to cross this bridge at the dawn of morning will be crowned Mayor of Limerick. So Jack got out of bed, trying to find a soft place between the bed and the wall. He put his brushes over his back on his way into work in Thomas Street, where he kept a small brush factory. On Tannum, Sean Scoob, Sean the Brush. He came into Limerick and he saw these very strange robe-dressed people standing on Thomond Bridge. And he said, "My good men, what are you here for tonight? What are you here for this early morning? What's going on?" "You, my man, are going to be crowned the mayor of our great city." And they put all of the city robes, the city fathers crowned him in the robes, the mayor in chain, and all of the finery associated with same. 3 days and 3 nights elapsed, and Sean's wife was at home with her children, wondering where Sean had gone. He never came home. She went to see him. She came into Limerick City looking for her husband, and she saw him being paraded through the city in a big carriage. All the finery and all the gold you could imagine. And as he saw her coming towards him, he shouted out to his wife, "Woman, why didn't you pay the ransom? Why didn't you pay the ransom? Who are you? I don't recognise you anymore, Sean. My good woman, I don't recognise myself. But I don't mind, because I'm now the mayor of the greatest city on God's green earth, where they say Urbs Antiquus Judiesque Esprima Belli, an ancient city well versed in the arts of war. I have the job of my dreams, and I intend to be the greatest mayor the Limerick people ever had." And that's the story of Sean on Scuib. Now I'm going to finish up with 2 songs very quickly, just so I don't take any time. And I'd like to dedicate this first one in the Gaelic language. I'd like to dedicate it to the great tradition, the Republican tradition, the 1916 tradition in the city of Limerick. We had great men like Ned Daly, people like Kathleen Clark, of course, in the 1916 movement. But this is a song that was written by Padraig Pearse. And on Whit Sunday 1915, the Irish volunteers marched through the city of Limerick. And this would have been a song that they sang on that particular day in the advance and the lead up to the Easter Rising. You'll all know very well. So I'd like if you join and sing with me on the chorus. It's a song called Oro Shedava Hawalia. Okay, so. Shedava havan var lenvar, vea grag to a ve in neven, who hate bra is shell of Merlock, is to deal talish nagaoliv. Oro Shedava Hawalla, Oro Shedava Hawalla, Oro Shedava Hawalla, and a sure hot on Tauri. Tagran Yoele Tatar Soya, Ogligarma, Lemar Garda, Goelid Fain is the Galna Spanik, is the Pershe Ruigar Gaulif, Oro Shedava Hawalla, Oro Shedava Hawalla, Oro Shedava Hawalla, and a sure hot on Tauri. A wheel arena of Arco Vecken, Monomine Mjoni, got shocked, and Granioel, Agasmelia, got skip, Egg Foigert, Finer, Gaulif. Last time, Oro Shedava, Hawalla, Oro Shedava, Hawalla, Oro Shedava, Hawalla, and a sure hot on Tauri. And we'll finish off with Go Lassie Go. And we're doing it G if anyone would like to join in. We'll do it in G if anyone would like to join in on the chorus. And I'd like to dedicate it to all the great Limerick people that have gone before us. People like Seamus O'Canada, people like Frank McCourt, Richard Harris, great people who've gone on before. And we'll continue with the Celtic tradition of remembering our ancestors on this Iha Hauna here in the great riverside city of Limerick. So please do join with me. Oh, the summer time is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme rolls around the blooming heather. Let's hear it. And we'll all together James O'Cada, people like Frank McCourt, and all those who've gone before us. Thank you very much for having me tonight. Really appreciate it. Great pleasure to be here. Very Margaret. Very Margaret. Very Margaret.
down the song.
All right.
Thank
Do your two and followed by Ken. Okay.
So this poem I wrote at a workshop here in Limerick for poetry as commemoration, and I based it on the fairy tales told to me by Sheila's auntie Irene when I interviewed her on her 90th birthday. So this is Away with the Fairies. In Limerick long ago, there used to be a tradition for fairy stories. I knew because my grandfather told them too. Hundreds of supernatural incidents were recorded during Ireland's War of Independence and Civil War. Sightings of little people, the banshee. Death had become a reality, you see. The following are some from Irene Ahern. On a frosty winter's night, with stars in the sky, I opened the door, saw a crowd pass by. Little people, like children, 10 years old, babbling, holding hurleys, sweeping brushes, poles. There was no school there, like there is now. You could walk from Rhines to the rugby ground. I followed them as far as the green. Fairies they were, from Fort Field. There was a fort on the Ballyhooly Road, a round mound of trees, bushes, bits of hedges, where the second scheme of houses was being built. Every morning when the builders came to work, a roof had fallen in. The fairies didn't want to leave, you see. No one listened to me. Construction continued with terrible destruction. People died sudden, were thrown out of bulldozers. One man went around all his life holding his palms up. They couldn't set his shoulders, you see. You can't go against a fairy. One summer's eve coming into dusk, this big rat, no one ever saw a small rat, crossed the road, rolled over on his back and caught a bottle of milk in his claws. I couldn't believe what I saw. Another one, hot on his trail, dragged him home by the tail. People were losing milk every day and didn't know why. Laughing at me, rolling their eyes. But I knew the rats were fairies in disguise. I used to see a woman looking out over a half door up the crossroad. Heard after she'd been dead for years. Saw things on the treaty stone no one else could see. Saw the banshee below in Kilkee. Heard her cry, terrified. Next morning, some imminent man from the public house was to die. In the month of May in Meelick, standing under a tree from the rain, with 2 children in a pram, 3 by the hand, I saw a gang of 70-year-olds carrying hurleys again. No, 7-year-olds, sorry. I saw a gang of 7-year-olds carrying hurleys again, all talking to themselves. Fairies. They couldn't have been anything else. Next morning I was in a butcher's telling my scale. Mr. Dillon added to the tale. He saw them go through a hedge and never come out. Heard them shout. They'd found the fort. So I just do Dirty Old Town. If you want to join in and see. Another Shane song. I met my love by the Gaster's wall. We got a tree by the old canal. By kiss my girl by the factory road. Dirty old town. Dirty old town. heard a
Don't worry, nothing exciting is going to happen. And I want you to picture this scene. So I want you to imagine yourself floating inside a snow globe. Whose woods are these? I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Among the trees, a frozen lake, the coldest night of the year. Are lovely, they're dark and deep, but I've got promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there's some mistake. The only other sound is the sweep of snowy wind and downy flame. And the woods are lovely, they're dark and deep, but I've got promises to keep, miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Vanity, ladies and gentlemen, and fellow performers, please bid welcome to the Lady Maury. We walk in the footsteps of great writers in this wonderful city, but yet they are not all natives of this wonderful city. A city well versed in the arts of war. Earlier we heard a little of Michael Hogan and Shauna Scoob. He was one of 6 boys born to Arthur Hogan and Mary Nolan in 1832, or was it 1828, or even perhaps 1826. But the reason we don't know for certain is because it wasn't written down. If it's not written down, it didn't happen. We heard of Shauna Scoob, but he was also famous for the land of Munster, which he failed to sell as he ventured after quitting a job at Russell's Mills on the canal bank. He failed to sell it anywhere in Limerick or anywhere around Munster. So he did go along and went back to work, and he went working on perhaps his most famous work, Lays and Legends of Thomond, which he first published in 1865, second edition in 1870, and a third edition in 1880, and was in fact working on a fourth edition at the time of his death in 1899. He was no scholar. He left school at the age of 8. He did not get on with the Christian brothers. The Lady Maury.
I was the funniest idle fool that ever graced a Christian school. I never learned a common rule in any book, for I, like every headstrong mule, my own way took.
Even though he was a genius, he wasn't entirely thinking correctly, because he wrote a number of satires about people. But most of all, they say that sons love their mothers. In this case, that was not true. He did not like his mother. In fact, he hated his mother. Lady Maury.
I might as well have been born and reared in a war camp, on account of those increased hostilities between my Dalcassian father and my Puritan mother.
His most famous work, very appropriate to the evening in question, Drunken Thady and the Bishop's Lady, the longest and funniest poem in the English language, or the funniest, longest poem in the English language, or the longest poem happens to be the funniest in the English language. 445 lines. You've all heard of Drunken Thady and the Bishop's Lady. We heard of the Green Lady earlier on, and we heard of Shannon, who gave the River Shannon its name, granddaughter of a mythical king. Michael Hogan continued to write satires about prominent people that he depended on. And he went to America in 1866, where he spent 3 years, and he brought his wife Anne Lynch with him. And the only baggage he brought otherwise were 40 copies of Lays and Legends of Thomond, which was actually paid for by the sum of £30 from Peter Tate, later Sir Peter Tate, who was Mayor of Limerick on 3 occasions. However, Michael Hogan wasn't quite thinking straight. This is what he said about the Irish in America. The Lady Maury.
The meanest pack of dogs in America. They deceive and betray each other more than they do at home. Every nationality here, Dutch, Jews, Germans, Danes and Italians, stand loyally to each other, but the rascally Irish, they are the only black spot on the human page. And such of them that have anything of the world's goods above another to boast of, their staggering insolence is something abominable.
Michael Hogan. self-proclaimed Bard of Thomond. Crossing the bridge in 1927, the birthplace of Christopher Flynn, who would go on to become both a Gaelic and English scholar, educated at the highest possible standard, and the creator of at least 50 great works in both languages. And he ended up in controversy in 1966 with an Irish publication, The White Clothes of Christ. But he was born in Church Street on Kings Island and later lived in O'Dwyer's Villas and spent his later life in Dublin, where he died in Glenageary at the age of maybe a few weeks short of 96 in 2023. Staying on Kings Island, but going back to 1803, one of Limerick's most famous writers, Gerald Griffin. He wasn't just a writer, he was a reporter, he was a poet, a novelist, and he is most famous for the reporting of the two trials of the murder of the Colleen Bawn out there on the River Shannon on the 14th of July 1819. And both perpetrators were brought to court in Limerick at Bridge Street on Kings Island, one in March 1820 and the other one in July 1820, and both of them were hanged. He did not realise it in 1820 that what he would do would influence filmmakers and screenplay writers around the world. He wrote a novel based on the murder of the Colleen Bawn. But what's interesting about the novel is that the characters were changed, and the true story of the Colleen Bawn is not contained within that novel. It was later adapted as an opera, and filmmakers were greatly influenced. The first film on the Colleen Bawn, 1911. His most famous piece of work is his poem, O Sweet Adair. Lady Morley.
O sweet Adair, O lovely vale, O soft retreat of sylvan splendour, nor summer sun, nor morning gale, ere hail is seen more softly tender. How should I tell the thousand charms within thy verdant bosom dwelling, where held in nature's fostering arms, soft peace abides and joy excelling.
Gerald Griffin died in 1840 in Cork from typhus, having joined the Christian Brothers, a congregation of Christian Brothers, and having destroyed his unpublished works in 1838. Literally a stone's throw from the famous location of the reporting of the Colleen Bawn trial was also an area associated, this time with a writer not from Limerick, Robert Graves, who lived from 1895 to 1985, and he was a grandson of an Anglican bishop of Limerick from 1866 to 1899. And Robert Graves specialised in very unique, sad poetry of romance, and he published at least 140 works, of which 1,200 of them were poems. His two connections with Limerick, one his grandfather Charles Graves, and the second was the fact that he had a military connection with Limerick through the Royal Welsh Fusiliers, who posted him to Limerick in 1918, and he was actually here during the War of Independence as well. And he frequented the area now occupied by the Loch Bar while he was stationed at the former castle barracks, where King John's Castle is now. Well, at least it was, but it was a garrison for a number of years. He spoke about Limerick during this oppressed period of the Troubles, just how run down the city was. Lady Morning.
The main streets were pitted with holes like shell craters, and many of the biggest houses seemed on the point of collapse. Everyone died of drink in Limerick, except the Plymouth brethren, who died of religious melancholia. Life did not start in the town until 9 o'clock in the morning. Once about that time, I walked down O'Connell Street, formerly King George's Street, and found it deserted. When the hour chimed, the door of a magnificent Georgian house flew open, and out came first a shower of slops, which just missed me, and then a dog which lifted up its leg against a lamppost. Then a nearly naked girl child who sat down in the gutter and rummaged in a heap of refuse for filthy pieces of bread. Finally, a donkey which began to bray. I had pictured Ireland exactly so, and felt its charm is dangerous.
Crossing the Abbey River from King's Island into the Irish town, we come upon another writer not from Limerick, Brian Merriman, who is believed to have been born in the area around Ennistown in 1747, and he died in Limerick in 1805. He was a scholar. We don't know where he was educated, but he was recorded as being a teacher of mathematics. Yet his most famous work is perhaps the funniest poem ever written in the Gaelic language, The Midnight Court, on Court Van Iha. This poem, 1,006 lines long, originally published in Gaelic, was translated in the 1940s by Cork writer Frank O'Connor. Thank you, Tom. When it was translated to English, it was banned. Now we're going to hear the 1,006 lines in Irish, and then we're going to hear the 1,006 lines in English. Okay, what's the poem about? The poem is about sex. 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 And what is the punishment? Marriage. Marriage. The Lady Murray.
For if I calculated right, she must have been 25 feet in height, with several yards of a hairy cloak trailing behind her in the muck. I never beheld such a freak of nature. She hadn't a single presentable feature, and her grinning jaws with the fangs stuck out would be cause sufficient to start a rout. And in a hand like a weaver's beam, she raised a staff that it might be seen. She was coming to me on a legal errand, for pinned to the staff was a bailiff's warrant.
The Midnight Court and Court Van Iha. Moving to McCourt Street, you've all heard of the Make Poets and the Limerick, or the Limerick poem. Andreas McRae and Tomás O'Tuma. Both of them came from Kilmallock, but they actually met up when they both moved to Croom, and that's where the origins of the Limerick started. Now the Limerick itself is quite a complex creation, but anyway, they were great friends, but they had a falling out. And Tomás O'Tuma actually moved to Limerick, away from his agricultural background, and he set up an inn in McCourt Street. Now, what happens if you have a business and you don't charge your customers for it? It becomes a thriving business, yeah, for somebody else. The Lady Murray is going to give us a little bit of the conflict that went on between these two gentlemen in poetry form and in Limerick verse rhyme. Lady Murray.
I sent the best brandy and sherry to make my good customers merry, but at times the finances run short as its chances, and then I feel very sad, very.
Lady Murray.
Oh, Tommy, you boast yourself handy at selling good ale and bright brandy, but the fact is your liquor makes everyone sicker. I tell you that I, your friend Andy.
The Limerick is a 5-line nonsense PBA. The first two lines rhyme with the fifth line and the second two lines rhyme separately. The Lady Maury with an example.
The limerick packs laughs anatomical into space that is quite economical. But the good ones I've seen so seldom are clean, and the clean ones are seldom comical.
Moving to Mulgrave Street and 1897, the birthplace of Kate O'Brien, one of Ireland's and Limerick's great writers, and has at least 4 of her works made into film. It was a very controversial lady in her own right, and again very much remembered, born at Barrow House in Mulgrave Street, just opposite St. Joseph's institution there. And she was controversial, but she was noted for her witticism. Lady Maury.
If somebody on this team actually gets to first base, I'll stand there naked.
The Lady Maury.
I only use my sick days for hangovers and soap opera weddings.
The Lady Maury.
The truth is, you don't know what is going to happen tomorrow. Life is a crazy ride, and nothing is guaranteed.
Richard Harris, one of Limerick's most famous people, as well as being a great actor of 70s soap films, art films as well. He was also a poet and a writer in his own lifetime. Wrote plenty of memorable material. So did his cousin, one piece work perhaps, Sean Burke, who actually sprung a prison mate out of Wormwood Scrubs prison in 1966, and later wrote a book about it, of which he is believed to have made £100,000. And what did he do with the £100,000? Or some said it was only 30,000, but in 1970 that was a lot of money. He drank every penny of it, yeah. And then of course you go a stone's throw in this direction, and we go to the White House, and that's where we meet Desmond, who was one of our great poets and set up the Court of Poetry in 1942 in Limerick. And he also appeared in a film in 1956 called La Dolce Vita for the filmmaker Fellini. A stone's throw in any direction from here, from this very building, will bring us onto Frank McCourt territory. You've all heard of Frank McCourt. We get a lot of American visitors going to see Frank McCourt, and many of them are actually quite surprised to discover that he was born in New York and not in Limerick. Yeah, they come all the way from America to Limerick to find out that he was born right next door to them. But anyway, well, Frank McCourt has done a lot for Limerick with his Pulitzer Prize-winning book from 1997, and of course the film version from 1999. And if you haven't read the book, it is a great read. Whether we agree with all of it or not, it is a great read, and the film adaptation is good as well. Frank McCourt's, all of this location around here within a mile radius is very much associated with him. And again, he was a man with great wit, and he had some good quotes. The Lady Maury.
Your mind is your house, and if you fill it with rubbish from the cinema, it will rot in your head. You might be poor, your shoes might be broken, but your mind is a palace. You have to study and learn so that you can make up your own mind. Stock your mind. Stock your mind.
Francis McCourt. We will not forget him. Thank you very much.
This is one of a number of songs I wrote about Frank McCourt, and this song was inspired by what he said on an interview when asked by the reporter what the future held for him after the success of Angela's Ashes, and he said it's a long way of breaking. Looking back upon my life in the alleys and the lanes, I stirred up all the hurt inside that I really release in the pain, and I've grown into a man. Ravaged by the past, this film of my life has run, and I've never known the cast, but it's been fast. It's been fast. And I see my mother standing by the door, puffing on a woodbine, and I'm waving from the shore, and I call to her mother, come in, the water's fine. You don't know what life is till you have drank this wine. And I'm crying. Yeah, I'm crying. And deep inside I know my heart is aching. I don't know what the future holds. It's a long way breaking, and I'm aching. Yeah, I'm aching. And now the circle's broken, I'll exercise the pain. If you can read between the lines, you'll see I'm whole again, and through the mist fall the rain. A new life has appeared. I must be doing something right, 'cause now the past is clear. I have no fear. Yeah, I have no fear. And there's no doubt about it, the truth is often bitter. If you can take it on the chin, you can make it better. So I won't ask for your forgiveness, I won't beg down on my knees. I've taken all that's thrown at me, I've found the missing key, and I'm free. Yeah, I'm free. And deep inside I know my heart is celebrating. I don't know what the future holds, but it's a long way breaking, and I'm waking. A long way breaking, a long way breaking, a long way breaking.
Farmer having a day out, and this is what happened. Let me tell you a story that happened to me. One day I decided to go out to the sea after spending all summer in the meadow and bog. Thought a break would be good for me and the dog. The morning was fine and the water was clear. The birds were singing in the clear blue air. The others were good and I didn't doubt, but what I expected didn't quite work out. As soon as I landed on that Whistler street, the donkey was gasping and panting with the heat. I thought it would be a good idea to take him for a walk by the sea. The next thing I heard was a dog warden speech. He said, "You can't have that dog on the beach." And he gave me a €1200 fine, and that was half their money of mine. It's an understatement to say I was shocked. There and then I decided I'd get blocked. So I headed for the nearest bar. I called a large brandy and a cigar. I headed out to have the smoke, but there and then the heavens broke. I edged back into the porch again to avoid getting soaked in the teeming rain. A health inspector came along the way. He turned to me and he did say, you should be outside with that cigarette. He didn't mind that I'd get wet, and he gave me a €3000 fine. I'd more held there with money on mine. I'm only 10 minutes in this town. I'm 4,200 down. Things didn't seem to be going very well, so I headed for home to 2010. But my wars were not over, as I would find plenty more strike before the day would end. The clamp to care when I was gone, I didn't realise I'd done anything wrong. there was a sign that I didn't see, and then they charged me hefty fee. I had to go to the wall in the wall to get more money for sweet fuck all. Again, we're just outside the 1 mile in. A cop jumped out of the ditch and he fined me for speeding. I was much enough to do to get penalties, a fine and penalties or two, and he gave me an €80 fine of more money on mine. Started up again, I was feeling low. They started the way, but it is true. I was just outside Killaloe. I was stopped by a couple of more boys in blue. This time they were doing the Brandon bread taste. I'd load the York, I did my best. But the brandy I had every that day, sealed my dome and get the game in there. I got it. I got €2,000 fine for that. I'm a one man, I was nearly in tears. When I went in home, I tried to figure out what had changed, what had come about. How could I lost so much so soon was all I spent from morning to noon. If ever I go for a break it in, I knew what I should have backed in. Definitely won't be the West Clare. I'll book all the flights. Was one here?
Marion is going to give us a little piece about Bridget Cleary there. Seems the night that's in it.
Yes, in the night that's in it, we a town stand called Ballybadley in the parish of Clooneen. Now Clooneen, for most he probably never mitched school, but he probably did on the day that he heard about Ballybadley. Clooneen is 16 miles from Clonmel, and there in the late 1800s lived a woman by the name of Bridget Cleary, and Bridget Cleary was married to Michael Cleary, and they were independent people for their time. Now Bridget Cleary was young when she married. She worked in Clonmel for a period of time. She worked as a milliner. She also worked as a dressmaker. She also, when she moved back to Ballybadley, she was a businesswoman, I suppose, for her time. She sold eggs. She was a herbalist. Her husband, Michael, was a cooper in Clonmel. What was unusual as well for the time is that Michael worked in Clonmel during the week. After they got married, he worked in Clonmel and came out to Ballybadley then at the weekends. But in March, in the mid-1890s, Bridget was out. She had delivered eggs to one of her relations, and she had collected herbs on the way back. And when she got back to the house that evening, she wasn't well. She had a flu, a cold, whatever. Anyway, she took to the bed. And she was in the bed for a few days. And Michael wasn't very sympathetic, I suppose one could say. But anyway, insisted that she get up, and she wasn't well. So Michael and some of his relations, including some of Bridget's, got this idea that Bridget wasn't the Bridget Cleary that they knew, who was in the bed, but believed that she was a changeling. And hence the reason for mentioning this story on tonight, the night that's in it. And unfortunately, this is a true story. Michael and some other men, and there was a few women involved, decided that Bridget was a changeling and not his wife. And he said to her on a couple of occasions to confirm that she was who she was, his wife. And she would repeat it, but her energy levels were low, and she couldn't say the 3 times which he believed that she should do to prove that she was a real woman and not a changeling. So in the end they decided, which was that this wasn't the case, and the only way that they could prove that she was Bridget Cleary and not a changeling was to burn her. And this they did in the house. Unfortunately, I'm not going to go into the details of the burning and that now, but that's what happened. So unfortunately, at the end of the day, Bridget Cleary was dead. When the police and the guards, etc., at the time decided to investigate it, nobody was ever actually convicted of her murder, but her husband, Michael, was sentenced to 14 years in jail. He spent time in the prison in Portlaoise. It had a different name then. And other men. Now, he was released approximately, I think, 14 years later and emigrated to Canada. And I suppose the Limerick connection, if you want one, is that the women who were convicted of being part of the incident that killed her that night were actually imprisoned here in Limerick. They got anything between 2 and 5 years. So maybe the night that's in it, we should remember Bridget Cleary. Sad thing to say, but maybe it's good as well, is probably the last woman in Ireland to have been killed as a witch.
Now, my friend Tommy O'Brien was a born adventurer. He loved the idea of travel and exploration. From a very young boy, he loved this. At 16 years old, Tommy got a book. It was written by Wilbur Smith. It was a book largely about white people hunting on the continent of Africa. And Tommy was fascinated by this. These people carried big hunting rifles and they shot animals for trophy. Now, one of the biggest trophies of the lot was to kill a lion, and they killed lions. Now, we would be shocked at that these days. Tommy was fascinated by it. He loved this idea. And Tommy had seen a photo, while he was still 16 years old, he had seen a photo of a white hunter sitting on a camp stool, smoking a pipe, a dead lion on the grass beside him, and he thought this was a great thing. He thought if he could kill a lion, he would be regarded as a man. He'd be hugely respected. Nothing happened for a good number of years, and when Tommy was in his early 40s, he got an opportunity to fulfill his dream. An aunt of his passed away in Dublin, left him a fortune, and Tommy decided that the first thing he wanted to do was go to Africa and hunt lions. He went to town into a travel agent and he booked into a safari in Africa. The name of the safari was the Great Lion Hunt. So Tommy said, this is exactly what I want to do this. The next thing he did was he went off and bought himself a shotgun. Now, a shotgun is quite different to a hunting rifle. People would say it's not as effective, but this is what he did. He didn't know enough about guns, really. So he bought a shotgun. 3 weeks later, he was on a plane flying to Tanzania. He had his license and he had a permit to carry the shotgun abroad. And he was collected at the airport in Tanzania by a man who drove him in a jeep into the Serengeti. And this man had seen Tommy with the shotgun, and he explained to him, Tommy, you can't shoot animals anymore. Oh, that's banned, that's gone. He said, nobody has shot a lion here for nearly 50 years. You just can't do it. Tommy was upset, but he was still determined. And Tommy got to the campsite. He was shown his tent and he'd sleep there for the night. The next day they would go on a hunt, hunting the lions. He was introduced to some Zulu tribesmen, people who would track the lions for him, and he was told, certainly you can take photos of the lions, but you can't do anything else. So Tommy was in bed that night. About 3 o'clock in the morning, he heard this noise. Now he knew it was a distance away. It was about a mile away. It was groaning and growling and that, and he knew instinctively that this was a lion. And he got up, got dressed, left the tent with his shotgun. He woke one of the Zulu guides. He was sleeping by the fire. Tommy woke him and he said, come on, we're going to hunt this lion. The Zulu said, absolutely no, we can't do this, not allowed. And Tommy said, look, I'll give you €1,000. Now to the Zulu, this was about a year's wages.
this was super money. He wasn't going to refuse. So they took one of the camp jeeps and they went off after the lion. Now the lion, smart animal, the lion knew he was being hunted. He knew these people were after him. He could hear the noise of the jeep. He could smell them. And he started to run and to hide. The Zulu tracker found him every time he hid, and the lion had to run again. This went on all through the night and well into the next day. Around 4 o'clock the following afternoon, the lion was exhausted. He was dying with thirst. He'd had nothing to drink all day, and he had enough, basically. So he turned on his enemy. Now, what happened after this? The Zulu told Tommy, he said, stop the jeep here. The lion was about half a mile ahead. They could see him clearly. And he said, now the lion will come to us. So as they watched, the lion turned and started walking towards the jeep, and then began to trot and was coming faster and faster. Tommy got out of the jeep, got his shotgun, checked that it was loaded, and began to walk towards the lion. Now at this stage the Zulu man started to protest. No, he said, you can't do it, it's not safe. So Tommy kept going, and he said to the Zulu, he said, there's a camera there, you take photos. Make sure you get photos of me, get photos of the lion. And he kept walking, and then Tommy went down on one knee, took aim. The lion now was closing the gap very quickly. He was charging towards Tommy. And when the lion was about 25 metres away, Tommy pulled the trigger. The lion gave a scream of pain, went down in a cloud of dust. Tommy put the shotgun away, took out his pipe and lit it. Now he was thinking about the photo he'd seen, and he said to the Zulu guy, he said, you come with me now, we get a photo of me with the lion. And the Zulu of course protested again, no, not safe, not safe. And Tommy said, look, there's no harm here, the lion is dead. He said, just take a photo of me with the lion. So he walked over. Now the photo he'd seen before, this hunter was sitting on a camp stool beside a lion. Tommy had no camp stool. There was nothing to sit on. So what did he do? He went over and sat on top of the lion. And the Zulu was taking photos. Now, I want you to imagine, just for a minute, just imagine that you're that lion. You've been chased all day by you've no idea who this person is. You haven't done anything to him, but he's chasing you, and you know that he wants to kill you. And your fear turns to anger, and then you give a roar, hoping this guy would stop, but he doesn't. So the next thing, the little Torag shoots you, and you're in pain, and you're bleeding, and you collapse on the ground, and after a few minutes you wake up. And what does the Torag do then? He's sitting on top of you. Now you're going to feel two things, aren't you? You're going to feel angry, and you're going to feel hungry. And that's why Tommy isn't here to tell us his story.
Two teenagers were going to a disco on Halloween night, and they were passing a graveyard, and the wind was howling, and the moon was going in behind the clouds, and they were very, very frightened. And to make it worse, they heard footsteps behind them, and it nearly finished them all together. So the footsteps caught up with them, and they turned around, and there was a man. And one says to the man, "Oh, thank God, sir, we were so frightened." And he said, "I know, I used to be like that when I was alive."
Here we go.
was watching television on Monday night. Anybody watching television on Monday night? No. Elvis. And I thought, this is an opportunity to tell the story of his life. Your man took 3 hours, I might take 10 minutes, if I'm lucky. So Elvis is very young, he's very poor. Living with the black people. Goes down to the local jukebox or juke joint and he's peering through the holes in the wall. Big Mama Thornton is inside, she might be singing this song. Oh, that's alright, Mama, that's alright with me. Gonna get a food and ready, no for me, that's alright. That's alright. That's alright, Mama, went up the road there. Hear the gospel singers giving kind of song. And of course he really loved the idea that he could be singing with lots of people. I'm gonna lay down, I'm falling my fingers. Down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna lay down, I'm falling my fingers. Down by the riverside, and I ain't going to study home. I ain't going to study home. while he was in Germany, he heard a song. And then he started making all those movies. And if you remember the Royal, what a Stingy I used on there. And Juliet Cross was dancing. I love you, don't break my heart. Back singing when they're there. And this is one of the songs you might have heard when he was a small boy. And the lines so that we could oh sorry, I forgot to tell you. Elvis is 90 next January. All ringing this way.
To blame him. So, but he wanted me to sing this song. It's I used to do a lot of busking late at night in Limerick, and met this fella one night, and he said to me, "Did I know the Donovan song, Catch the Wind?" Which I did. And before I get to sing it, he's telling me why it's so important to him. He said this. He was working in Sarajevo at the height of the Yugoslav Civil War. He was working for the Red Cross or something like that. And he met this girl there, her name was Julie, she was from Devon in England. And over the weeks and months that they were working together, he got a big graph and he was trying to work up the courage to tell her that he loved her. But sadly, he never got the chance because she was killed when she went out on a mission of mercy. But they used to be underneath tables when the shells were flying into the city and you didn't know from 1 minute to the next whether you were going to be brown bread or not. But they used to sing Catch the Wind underneath the table and it used to make them braver. So this is my song for him. It's for a Cork man that told me the story and for Julie from Devon. So this is it, I hope you like it. Met her in Sarajevo, we were doing what little we could. That wild English rose, God, she was beautiful. We would huddle close together, shells exploding all around. When we were feeling really frightened, we would sing, catch the wind. It made us a little braver. It made me love you more. Never known anyone like her. She worked till she was dead on her feet. Then she'd work a little harder. Starving people had to eat. And the gunners on Mount Digma tried to stop us from getting through. And the fear of a sniper's bullet didn't matter, 'cause I was with you. Julie, I never told you that I was in love with you. But Julie, I think you knew. Met her in Sarajevo. We were doing what little we could. That wild English rose. God, she was beautiful. We would huddle close together, shells exploding all around. When we were feeling really frightened, we would sing, catch the wind. It made us a little braver. It made me love you more. And the phone calls from your parents, remember how they went? Yes, Daddy, I'm doing fine. I'm nowhere near the front line. And I know that they forgive you the white lies that you told. 'Cause they love you, Julie. Your memory is pure gold. Julie, there's no monument for all the good that you've done. Forgotten hero, that's more your style, but good friends remember you. And I think that's what you would have wanted to. Met her in Sarajevo. We were doing what little we could. That wild English rose. God, she was beautiful. We would huddle close together, shells exploding all around. When we were feeling really frightened, we would sing, catch the wind. It made us a little braver. It made me love you more. Julie from Devon, I'm sure she's in heaven. Thank you. This is just a simple song, it's called The Reason. Here's a little clue. The reason why I love you is because you love me too. I could search the whole world over, hold my breath until I'm blue, but I know I'll never find another one like you. There are people in this world today who are unhappy with their lot. See the glass half empty when clearly it is not. But I've got a rose-colored vision. Here's another little clue. When the sky is gray outside, all I do is think of you. Is the reason why I love you, the twinkle in your eye, or is it when I hold you close, you give a little sigh? There are many answers, here's a little clue. The reason why I love you is because you love me too. I could search the whole, hold my breath until I'm blue, but I know I'll never find another one like you. I guess I'm just born lucky, 'cause somehow I found you. Now I find you keep me warm with a love so sweet and true. Oh, time and time again I feel such happiness inside, and I know without a doubt it's because you're by my side. Is the reason why I love you, the twinkle in your eye, or is it when I hold you close, you give a little sigh? There are many answers, here's a little clue. The reason why I love you is because you love me too. I could search the whole world over, hold my breath until I'm blue, but I know I'll never find another one like you. I know I'll never find another one like you.
is an isle. There is an isle. A balmy isle. A balmy isle. Stands proudly from the sea. And the deer are far. And deer are far. In all this world. In all this world. Is that here isle. Is that here isle to me? It is not that alone it stands. Alone it stands. While all around is fresh and fair. Oh, because it is my native land and my home is there. Oh, because it is my native land and my home is there. Farewell, farewell, though lands may meet, may meet my days where I know. I shall not find a spot so fair, as that here isle to me. It is not that alone it stands, while all around is fresh and fair, oh, because it is my native land and my home is there. Lord, because it is my native land and my home is
Well done. Everybody, give your all. Take a bow. The whole lot. It's a lovely show.
Can we get a big photograph?
And can we get a big photograph of everyone here together? Everyone. And hopefully we'll be able to do it all again.
Sweet Molly.